I did a lot of tutorial on Fluent add-on for Blender, but this add-on has a PowerTrip version. This adds some extra tools like the screws, the pipes, the wires, and the grids, and I will explore them in this video. To demonstrate that, we will create a Cryo Pod, like this one. We'll start by using the creation tool. Right-click to show the grid, click and hold Shift to draw from the center and make a rectangle shape. By the way, if you're wondering why I have a vertical menu instead of a circular menu, this is because I changed it in the Fluent preferences. You can change it also to switch back from circular to column. Let's add a first bevel and increase the number of segments a bit. I would like to have a chamfer at the top and the bottom, and to do that we can use the second bevel and press C to change to straight bevel. Validate and then right click to complete the shape. Let's add a bevel and change the width a bit. Good. So here is the basic shape of the cryopod. The cryopod has to have a lid to open it and put people inside. So let's create it right now. Go to the side view and press F, slice, and shift right click to show the blue plane. Select the shape tool, click around there, and then hold Control. And while you are holding Control, this will snap by 45 degrees angle. So let's snap it to the 45 degree. Click, hold Control still, and then draw like straight line and draw outside. Once we're done with the shape, we can shift left click to validate the cutter. Now you can move to cut directly the object, but if you press V, it will automatically cut through the entire object. So that's a shortcut that is pretty useful. This corner around here, it's a little bit too harsh. So I'm going to use the bevel tool by pressing B and then move it right and left. And I'm going to press C again to make it straight bevel. Click and validate. We can right click to complete the cut. Great, so the lids to open need some edges to pivot the lids. So let's go to the back, select the top part, select the cutter and right click. We're going to make a small rectangle cut like so. Doesn't need to go too deep. Add a small bevel by pressing B, and then add an array tool. So to add an array tool, you press A, you click on the axis you want the array to be, so this axis, and then you move the mouse to adjust the size of the array. Click once you are happy with the spacing, and then click on the validate button to validate the array tool. We're pretty much done with this part. So right click and show the Boolean. To show the Boolean object, you can either press the shortcut greater than, lower than on your keyboard, or go to the Fluent menu and click on this button. Select the cutter we just used and shift click on the bottom part. With the Fluent menu, we are able to use the Boolean tool, and this will create a Boolean operation between the cutter we selected and object we selected at the second time. For this, we will not touch anything and just right click. Great. We have the hole for the edges, and to make the edges, we can just show the Boolean object, select this one again, and go to the Fluent menu and shift click on this icon over there. This will extract the cutter and make it a separate object. And this is pretty useful. So we can hide the cutters, select this, and add a bevel. And we have some hinges. Pretty cool. So to open the lid, we need some kind of button or like a handle. So I'm going to use the slice tool, right click on the top face, and make a long rectangle slice. Good. Let's add a small bevel to round the corner a bit and right click. So we have the basic shape for the lid. Let's now make a little bit more details. So when you have an object, you always have to ask yourself how this object is put together, how we constructed it, how it has been made. Right now we have a big object and we don't really see how it has been made. So we're going to use the slice tool from Fluent and cut it a little bit everywhere to make it like different pieces that has been put together. So we just put a slice, press V to go through the entire object and right click. And then we select another part, go back to the side view, press F, slice tool, and cut it again around here, for example. Press V, and if your cut is not where it's supposed to be, you can press G to move the cutter, press Y or Z to move it along one axis and adjust it. Click, and then click again to go back to Fluent, and then right click. So we have now a more realistic object that has multiple pieces and looks a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to add a grid around there. So to add a grid, we have this tool, but this tool needs a hole, a Boolean object. So first of all, I'm going to create a hole on the side to put the grid on. Select this and right click. We have an artifact around there. This is because when you are making a Boolean operation, Blender is automatically creating some lines to support this Boolean. So if you press F and click on the wire tool, you will see how the edges are formed by Blender. And Blender created automatically a line that is connected to this point. We need to tell Blender, no, don't use this line, use another line to support it. So if you go to edit mode, you press Ctrl R and then click, you move the edge around there that is aligned with the cutter. You can press then Shift F, and this will go back to object mode. And as you can see, we don't have the line over there because Blender understands that we want to use this line to support the cut. So let's hide the wire. I'm going to enable again the cavity so we see more the cutters and hide the cutter again. Great. So this is looking good. We can look around to see if everything is fine, and we can show the Boolean again and select it. If we select this Boolean and we click on the grid tool, nothing will happen. And this is because we need to choose which type of grid we want. If we click, we can choose the type of grid. Let's say I want hexagon grid. I'm going to adjust a little bit the scale of it. Validate. and the hole size. Great. If the grid is too close from the border, you can always change the position of it, make it a little bit more or less steep. Let's validate and right click to validate the grid. I'm going to add a little bit more details to this cut. And to do so, I'm going to select the cutter, go to the Fluent editor, and use the frame tool. The frame tool allows you to make a cut around the cutter you just made. So first of all, we're going to adjust the depth. I'm going to make it very small depth, like so. And then we can change the width. Don't worry, if we have artifacts, we'll fix them later on. And then the offset is how close or how far is the object from. As you can see, we can see the grid under the frame. So the good thing is to adjust the depth. So depth, offset, and validate. Right now we have an overlap, and this is because the bevel is way too big. So if we reduce the bevel, this will fix everything. Good. So we have nice looking details with a grid at the bottom. And I would like to use the screw tools. So we're going to make a maintenance axis. Use the slice tool and draw a rectangle shape. Add the bevel by pressing B. And we're going to change the number of segments. Something you need to learn is that if you want to put screws on the corner, for example, of this plate, the number of segments has to be like, for example, 2, 4, 6, 8, etc., etc. This is very important for the next part. You can see the number at the bottom of there, and if you select segments and move to the right, it will increase them. So you can put, for example, 6 and validate. Great. Let's right click, select this part, press F, and use the screw add tool. This will ask you to select the face where you want your screws on. So the front face, press enter, and nothing will happen. The reason for that is because you need to click and go to change, select which tool you want to use and which shape you want for your screws. By default, they will be a little bit too big, so you can just scale them down. And by default, you can change also the position. You can see that it will create one screw for each point of the face you selected. If you only want one screw at each corner, you need to go to edit mode, select all the points by pressing A, and go to this tab, select the vertex group screws, remove everything, and select only the points where you want your screws on and click Assign. Go back to object mode. If you don't see your screw when you are assign it to the vertex group, it's because you need to adjust the position and they might appear after that. So let's move them a little bit inside, increase scale, and I want them not on the surface of the object, but a little bit inside. So you can use this option over there to put them inside of the object. Be careful for the overlap of the bevel and adjust the position if it's too close to the border like this. Great. So I'm going to add a little bit more details on the lid now. For the lid, I'm going to use the inset tool. So first of all, you can select either one of those tools. It doesn't matter because we will click on this button after that. Select the top face, press I, to inset inside of the object. If you have artifacts at the bottom, don't worry, we will fix them later. So make a margin, probably something like this. Click, press enter, and this will cut the object or add the object depending of if you go inside or outside the object, like any other cutter. Go a bit inside, press validate, and use the frame tool. Adjust the depth. Don't worry about the bottom part, we will cut it afterwards, so doesn't matter. We only need to look at the top part. Go back to the frame tool and adjust the width and the offset. Try to make it at the middle, and we're good to go with the offset. This is a little bit too deep, so I'm going to go back to the frame tool, click depth, just the depth a bit, and we're good to go. For this part, I'm going to cut. So I only want the top part, and I wanted to cut it around there. To do so, just shift click on the pen icon at the bottom, and we see that this is the cutter that is selected and not the object. So it means that every operation that we will make on this object will be made on this cutter and not on the object. So right click on the top, use the rectangle cut, and cut it around there. Make sure you are cutting the entire part, and click validate. Great. We can hide the boolean, and we only have the one that we want. Pretty cool. I would like to use this cut in the middle to make a glass to see through the object. So show the boolean, click on this one, and then shift click on this icon. This will, like we did for the inch, create an object, separate object with those information. We don't want to have the outside part, we only want the inside part. So if we select the object and go to the modifiers, we have a modifier that is frame. If we remove it, we only have the middle part. Pretty cool. So let's add a bevel and move this up a bit. If you see this, it's because you need to show the boolean and move this cutter a little bit up, so it cuts through everything. Pretty cool. This edge is a little bit too harsh, and I would like to reproduce the effect that we have on this edge. So let's go to the Fluent editor, go to second bevel, increase it a bit, press C to make it straight, and validate. Good. We can shift click, and I also want to cut this edge over there. To do so, I'm going to use the cut tool, right click, and press A. This will allow us to click on 2 points and align the grid on the 2 dots that we selected. So I click on this one first and then this one, and the grid is aligned on the center based on this edge. We will rotate it by using this tool. Click once on the axis you would like to rotate on. Move your mouse to minus 45 degrees. Click and validate rotation. If we draw, we are drawing on 45 angle cuts. So that's pretty cool. Good. We can right click and we are good to go with the lid for now. I would like to add a little bit more details on the stop part. To do so, I'm going to use the cloth tool. So to make this inflated part, I'm going to use a cut. And let's say I would like to have an inflated part that is this size. We can add a bevel by pressing B and validate. Right click to validate the shape. And inside this hole, I would like to have an inflated part. To use the cloth tool, you need first of all to go to your Fluent preferences and go to the cloth part at the bottom. And you need to select which tool you want to remesh. So if you don't have Quad Remesher, you can install Instant Remesh. This is free. Click on the bottom to download the instance mesh and specify where the file is that you download and unzip. Once this is done, you can adjust the cloth settings by clicking on this button. I advise you to copy the same settings as I did over there. Great. So I'm going to use the cloths panel and select where I would like to put the cloths. I press enter and this will recalculate everything. Now we have a second part because we checked the gathering option. This will allow us to make a separate step. We have all selected, so don't click anywhere. Press G, then move on the Z axis a bit and press S to stretch the fabric. This will simulate like an effect and go back. All the faces that we see that are selected will go back to the original point and inflate at the same time. So it will create a movement and inflate them. This is why we selected the gathering option. So press enter and we have a more realistic cloth that if we didn't check the gathering option. We have a little bit more wrinkles and everything. Usually, if you have a bevel, this cloth is not really matching. You have a gap. So select the cloth, right click, and then set origin to volume and scale it a bit so it goes inside the object and we don't see a gap in between. It's very important. If it goes a little bit to the side, you can always S and X, for example, and readjust the cloth so it match the hole. Great, so that's for the cloth tool. I would like to add a cut at the bottom. So a slice, for example, to make a connector. So press B, bevel. Okay, right click. And on this, I will go to the cut tool again, right click, press C to draw a circle. This is okay. And this time I'm not going to cut inside the object. I'm going to go outside the object to make it go out. So it's good. Press A to enable the array tool. Click on this axis, move a bit, and press C to change the number of elements. We would like only 3 of them. Press C again if you want to adjust the width. Great. We click and we validate the operation. We will later on plug some cables on those circle parts. So right click and select the bottom part. I would like to add some kind of protection at the bottom, like a layer on top of the basic objects. A pretty cool tool in Fluent PowerTrip is the plate tool. The plate tool allows you to select the faces you want the plate on and then use it to extract the material and make a plate out of it. So I'm going to select the bottom part and the middle part using the C button to select everything. And once I have all the faces I want, oh, by the way, I would like to remove this. I went too far. Just the corner and the back. Great. So we have all the faces where we want the plate on. We can just press enter and automatically we switch to the thickness adjustment. So you can make it as you like. As usual, you click to validate and click on validate. Good. We have our plates. We right click and we have our protection done within a few clicks. So that's pretty cool. Another tool that is really useful is the pipe tool. The pipe tool is over here. And if you select object, then go to pipe tool, you click, you will see a first dot. This is where the pipe will start. And if you click again, it will draw the pipe. Right now, it's a little bit buggy because you need to say, okay, I would like to align those 2 points on Z axis. So if you press Z, those 2 points will be at the same height. You can adjust the radius, of course. You can adjust the bevel and the wood strength is actually how far is the pipe from the object. I'm going to use a pipe to make a handle over there. This is not really a pipe, but this is really useful to make handles for hard surface modeling. And I would like to add a protection on top of this. So to add a protection, you go to extra and ring. You need to add a ring because by default we don't have a ring. So you add a ring, it pops out, and then you move it where you want it. I would like to have it in the middle, and you can adjust the length, the bevel, and the thickness. Great. So we have the handle to carry this pod around. The last tool we're going to use is the wire tool. To make it a little bit easier, I'm going to add a plane to make a floor to spread the wire on it. So let's place it bottom of it and use the wire tool. So you have two ways of using the wire tool. You can either click on this wire tool there, or you can use a curve that you have in your scene and convert it as a cable. For this example, I'm going to use the second technique. So Shift A, add a Bezier curve, go to edit mode, select one of the dots, and at the top here, I'm going to select face project with the center align to rotation and rotate. If I press G and hold Control, this will snap automatically to the face. So let's make it on the middle one, and then we're gonna move this point by pressing G and Shift Z, move it over there, and we need to rotate this. So R, Z, rotate, make it turn around like so. Good. So go back to object mode, go to the Fluent Pie menu, and in the tools over there, you have the Become Fluent. And this will convert any curve into a wire. This looks a little bit low res, so if you click to Utilities and Curve Resolution, you can increase a little bit the resolution and validate. Nice, so we'd like to go back and adjust the radius, and we're good to go. Great, so I have one wire and I don't want to reproduce the same for those two. I would like to have them at the same shape. To do so, you can go to the Array tool, increase the count, 3, and then increase the gap. If they are not really aligned, this is because you have a twist. So to adjust that, you can go back and adjust either the twist 1 or the twist 2. So you change it. If it doesn't work with twist 1, you go back to twist 2 and then adjust it. If they are still not aligned, this is because you need to go to edit mode and then rotate this and make it perpendicular. Great. You can go back to object mode and readjust twists a bit and probably the gap. Perfect. So that's it for the basic of Fluent PowerTrip tools. If you'd like to see more modeling tutorial, I redirect you to this one. See you on the next one.